Well, as gentlemen, Papa Boris here with some more Hearthstone Arena action. If you've been keeping a careful eye on the previews, you know that this was not the class selection that was available at the end of the last video. The reason there was a break is that my friend Dan actually played Hearthstone Arena run on my account. He's not in the beta yet and wanted to give Arena a shot. And he actually went 7-3 as a shaman in his first arena, which was pretty spectacular. I was very happy for him. It's like better than I've been doing. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and grab Warrior. It's been a while since we played with, what's his name? Gromash, Garish, Gareth, Garrus? I don't know what this is. Okay, anyway, bit of an unfortunate rare pick here. Angry Chicken you can't really play, Cold Lights here you can't really play. So the Raven Old Assassin, it's not my favorite card, but, you know, if you're desperate for a big creature, it's one of those, like, you know, I'll take a big thing if I'm desperate for big things kind of a card. So, it's not the greatest start, but it is playable at least. Fiery War Axe. these are okay, but Fiery War Axe, you just take every one of those that you see and you'll be in good shape. Now, here we have an interesting situation. Rampage, I used to hate on this card a lot, but then I actually was forced to play with it, and it ended up being really, really good. However, I don't think I'm going to take it here, because these two are very, very good. Spiteful Smith has just got great stats, even if you never pull off the Enrage, and if you pull that off, then it's freaking amazing. And then the Cruel Taskmaster, also a very, very solid card here. It can kill things, it can give you a damage buff, it can act like kind of like a Dark Iron Dwarf sometimes. So I'm going to take the Cruel Taskmaster here, although a case could be made for any of these three cards here. Okay, well, Raid Leader I'm just not a very big fan of, but sometimes the buff is nice to have. War Golem is another bad 7-drop like the Ravenhold Assassin, so I definitely don't want that. We'll take the Novice Engineer. The Engineer is a nice type of card to have when you're playing with Cruel Taskmaster, because you can buff this Engineer. She's got 2 hit points, so she can take the heat, and then trade up to something that has 3 health, and that's pretty sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and grab her and make sure we got some cards around here and some usefulness. Okay, tricky call here. The Frostwolf Warlord's certainly good, and Slam is removal of a sort. The Raging Worgen, though, I mean, I got beaten recently because somebody slammed their Raging... Or no, somebody played Whirlwind on their Raging Worgen and then gave it Rampage and hit me for 14 damage, and it was just ridiculous. I'm going to take it. The Frostwolf Warlord, it's a good card, but it's also risky. You know, you might not be able to actually pull it off, and then if it's an empty board on turn 5, this thing is just no good. The Raging Worgen, though, it's nice to have those early plays, and this is one that, you know, forces your opponent to provide an answer. Usually they will, but it's better to force your opponent to answer a question than to pose no questions at all. Okay, well, here, since I've already got a couple of 2-drops, I don't feel the need to take this vanilla one. The Nightblade, I just will think my whole life is a terrible card, so we'll take the Farseer. Warriors have a little bit less pressure to take killing, because of course their hero ability does just that. Like, that is all it does. But this is still a very playable creature, and I'm happy to take it. I'll be happy to take it over the other Junker Nuggets here. Okay, so we can take an Arcanite Reaper here, or here's another opportunity for a Rampage. Now, Rampage is a really amazing combo with the Cruel Taskmaster. So the Arcanite Reaper, I mean, you might think I'm crazy for not taking it, but the problem is this card doesn't really help you if you're behind. It is very good if you're, like, equal or ahead. But, I don't know, I mean, I'm thinking about the Rampage here. It's important not to dismiss 2-card synergies in the arena, because you've only got 30 cards in your deck, so 2 cards that work well together, you will see them together sometimes. And having the Rampage this early in the draft signals to me that, you know, in the future, if I take other things, like, for example, Injured Blade Master or something like that, or Whirlwind, then I'll know that I've already got the Rampage in place to combo with them. You know what? For the synergy potential, I'm going to make a crazy move here. I'll grab the Rampage. We'll see how much I regret that. Okay, Shield Block is a card I'm not a super big fan of. But it does cycle, and it gives you some life, which can be nice. The armor is good if you get Shield Slam, but that's an epic, so it's very unlikely. Taunt is actually pretty nice to have. I've noticed that I really do kind of underrate Taunt. It's such an easy thing to be like, oh, whatever, Taunt, schmont. But then when you actually play with Taunt cards, even like junky ones like the Frostwolf Grunt, you are often really happy to have them. I'm going to take the Grunt here. I'm going to grab the Taunt here. I don't have any at the moment, and I think it's important to get those. Cult Master. Very, very good card. It can swing games all by itself. I think the Fen Creeper, though, is worth considering here, simply because the Cult Master, you know, sometimes it'll be a blowout, and sometimes it's just, you're just sad. The Fen Creeper, though, I mean, you're always happy to have that on turn 5. You know, whether you're winning or losing, it holds the fort, or it advances your position. I'm going to be crazy here. I'm going to take the Fen Creeper, just to have more taunt. Okay, so here the Violet Teacher is a very compelling choice, because I'm completely lacking for 4-drops. However, I've played with Mortal Strike, and even though it is a bad fireball, I found that I really liked having it. At the moment, my only real removal is this War Axe, because I passed on Slam, and the Cruel Taskmaster kind of. So because I do need some removal, I'll be sad to miss this good 4-drop, but I'm going to take the Mortal Strike, because some removal is better than none. Okay, well here, normally I wouldn't take the Whirlwind, but these are very, very mediocre cards, and I've got the Rampage here, and the Raging Worgen to go with it, so I'm going to be happy to pick it up here and have hopefully just one copy of that card in my deck. Okay, so the Bloodfen Raptor is not super compelling, because I already got like 3 2-drops here, and I'm missing stuff in other zones. Like I don't have any 4-drop creatures at all, for example. The Owl is an interesting choice. I'm not a big fan of the Owl. Silence is nice to have. Ogre Magi is not super great for warriors, although here, I mean, Mortal Strike, it's okay. Whirlwind, it kind of becomes crazy with the Magi. The problem is that it deals 2 damage to everything, so it might not actually be that playable here. I'm tempted to just take it to have a 4-drop. It's not the greatest one. The 4 health is a real liability compared to, like, you know, the Senjin Shield Master or the Chillwind Yeti. Honestly, this guy would be a lot better if it were a 3-5 than a 4-4. And I might regret not having Silence, but I don't know, my instinct says you gotta have some 4-drops in your deck, so I'm gonna go just make sure I grab one, even if it's mediocre. Okay, well, these are tempting, but I've already got them in my deck, so we'll take a Dark Iron Dwarf, because it's actually a good 4-drop, unlike the Ogre Magi here. And here I've got to choose between another copy of the Fen Creeper or the Darkscale Healer. Now, I think in general the Darkscale Healer is better, so they both total up to 9 stat-wise, so that their body size is approximately equal. But I think the healing is, you know, going to often be better than the taunt, especially because of this extra power, so it's a harder hitter. Although, I don't know, I mean, I could use some more taunt, I suppose. I've got the Fen Creeper for 1, this Frostwolf Grunt for 2, maybe not the worst idea in the world to take some more healing, or excuse me, some more taunt. I am a warrior, so how much do I really care about the healing? Yeah, we'll take the taunt. I think I just convinced myself that taunt is just more important. I've just been like losing to taunt, and I've been wishing I had more taunt myself. I feel like I'll try this new world where I take more taunt. Okay, well, this is a tough call because I've got the Stormwind Champion, which is obviously a good 7-drop. The thing is that I'm lacking for like a mid-game, and I think that if you're lacking for a mid-game, the Stormwind Champion ends up being not very good, since if all you're buffing are like little creatures, you could end up getting screwed. Like, if you don't put things down in the mid-game, all the little stuff that you put down will just die, and then the Stormwind Champion is a naked 6/6, and then it's really unimpressive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to shore up my weakness in the early game by taking, you know, this Harvest Golem. It's a very, very good 3-drop. The Cruel Taskmaster is very tempting, but we've got this spike here at 2 mana, because we've got 1, 2, 3, I'll count the Fiery War Axe as 4 things to play on turn 2. Turn 3, you just have 2 things. So there's a bit of an imbalance here. Let me try to balance out my curve a little bit, get this really awesome 3-drop that resists, you know, Mage's Mass Removal and Warrior's Fiery War Axes and all sorts of stuff, and shore up my early plays. Okay, well, here, unfortunately, we just get a really bad pack. The Young Priestess I don't really consider playable. The ability is really awful, and Sunfury Protector, it's a 2/3 for 2, which isn't really what this deck needs, but it's like the only playable card here. Young Priestess, I think, is actually worse than an Abusive Sergeant. The Abusive Sergeant is the common 2/1 for 1, whose battle cry is give a friendly minion +2 attack for the turn. I mean, that's just so much better than giving like a minion +1 health at the end of your turn. Like, how long is this thing gonna live? Like half a turn? Yeah, it's just not worth it. We'll take the Sunfury Protector. Okay, well, here we have an epic, and it's actually all 3 warrior epics. I believe each class only has 3 epic cards, so here we got all warrior ones, and they're all really good. So the Gorehowl, of course, that just, you know, wins games, because you can 7 for 1 with it. Shield Slam is quality removal, but at the moment, since I didn't take that shield block, my armor is not necessarily going to be all that high. And Brawl, well, Brawl is a card I'm not a big fan of playing, because usually it's like, if your opponent's way ahead, you have to play Brawl and get lucky to really come back. So the Gorehowl is, I feel like, a little bit more of a consistent card. You need to rely on the rest of your deck to like actually make it so that on turn 7, when you play Gorehowl, you're actually like at a reasonable enough life total that you can hit enemies with it. But if you are at a pretty high life total at that point in the game, which seems not unlikely because we have a trend toward lower costing cards here, the Gorehowl will be very usable and just probably win it for you, unless it gets oozed, of course. So it's a tricky call here. I know some people are going to think I'm crazy for not taking Brawl, but Brawl, I mean, you have to be behind, and you have to get lucky. I'd rather have a card that whose condition is you have to not be behind. In some sense, I guess Gorehowl and Brawl are kind of like opposites of each other. Brawl, to be good, you need to be behind, or else it's useless. Gorehowl, you need to be equal or ahead, or else it's not really going to save you. But I'm going to take it, because Gorehowl, I mean, it's also kind of like we've called it, this has actually been a while since we've done this, but there's also like, the Gyro Blast potential, where you use it like as like a 7 damage to the face sort of a thing. I'm going to take it. I'm going to trust my instincts. That seems to be the more consistent card. Well, having just passed on Shield Slam, I pick up a Shield Block. I'm not going to take it here. I will go ahead and take the Arcanite Reaper. These both are okay, and I have been a defender of the Mogashan Warden. However, since I was pretty aggressive taking taunts, Fen Creepers, and this Frostwolf Grunt, and also the Sunfury Protector. Granted, the Sunfury Protector was like not a choice, but since I have been taking quite a bit of taunt, I don't need to take that card, and the weapon will be nice to have. Okay, so here we unfortunately have a pretty bad pick. I could take the Bluegill Warrior as a 2-mana removal. Notice how the Bluegill Warrior and the South Sea Deckhand are both 2/1s with charge. The difference is for the Bluegill Warrior, you are paying an extra mana to guarantee the charge, whereas the South Sea Deckhand, you might not actually be charging. However, we do have Fiery War Axe, and this Arcanite Reaper, and the Gorehowl. And hopefully, I mean, I can't count on this, but hopefully there will be an Arathi Weaponsmith in here. We actually are missing all the good warrior common creatures. No Warsong Commanders yet, no Korokron Elites, and no Arathi Weaponsmiths, without which I think this deck is going to suffer quite a bit. But I'm going to take the South Sea Deckhand. It sometimes will be nice to just play it on turn 1. It can make a difference to put a creature down. And, if I do have a weapon, then I pay 1 less mana than the Bluegill Warrior, and hopefully can do more things on my turn. Ah, we get a legendary here. Interesting. Well, Captain Greenskin, that can be an absolute blowout. So it's kind of like an upgrade on top of a 5-drop. Now, Hogger, I know that's sort of the screen grabber here. Definitely a good card there. So I've talked about Hogger before. Basically, if this gets out of control, then yeah, it'll just win you the game. Notice, though, it's a 4/4, which is pretty fragile. And it puts a 2/2 with Taunt into play at the end of your turn. So you can compare it to a Silverhand Knight. That's a 4/4 that puts a 2/2 into play. The difference there is the Silverhand Knight costs 1 less mana, but the 2/2 that comes into play with it doesn't have taunt. So it's like with Hogger, it's like a legendary that actually compares to a common, where basically you're just paying an extra mana to put a taunt on the 2/2 thing it spawns. Now, of course, you're putting a 2/2 into play every turn, so if it can survive a turn, then it becomes amazingly good. So for Hogger, 6 mana against a mage is kind of annoying because it means that when you play it, unless you're the first player, the mage can Flame Strike right after that, kill it and the gnoll that you spawned. And then in general, if you're at all behind on the board or your opponent has any kind of board presence, you spend your whole turn playing the Hogger, and then your opponent just needs to kill a 2/2 gnoll before it gets at the Hogger himself. However, I do have some taunt in the deck. I got the Fen Creepers here. I've got the Sunfury Protector, and the Frostwolf Grunt even will do the job. So I have some extra protection for this Hogger potentially, and the 4 health is nice. It survives a lot of, common removal, like, it'll survive a Wrath. Actually, I guess it doesn't really survive that much, does it? Mages can kill it with Frostbolt plus Hero ability. Warlocks have Shadowbolt and Soulfire. Hunters, it'll survive a multi-shot. Won't survive an explosive shot. Yeah, a 4 health is resistant to some removal. I guess Wrath is pretty much the main one I was thinking, and Fiery War Axe. But there's still a fair amount of removal that will kill it. Anyway, so it's a tricky call is what I'm saying. So let's take a look at Captain Greenskin. We've got the Fiery War Axe. That's 1. And then Gorehowl. Oh my god, that's an interesting combo. Putting it on a Gorehowl, making it an 8/2, so you can actually hit for 8 once and then lose a durability. Wow, that would be crazy. Alright, I'm going to trust my instincts. I'm going to take Captain Greenskin here. I know that some people are going to rage at me for not taking the Hogger, but I feel like it's a little bit more consistent. You have a weapon in your hand, you play him, you get a benefit. This guy, it's like if you're a little bit behind, you're not going to be able to protect him, and then he's just going to be an overpriced 4/4 and a 2/2. So, I know it's crazy, but that's what I'm going to do. Oh, thank goodness. So, the Dread Corsair is extremely tempting because I do have a number of weapons, and this guy will be pretty cheap with those. He's free with a Gorehowl or an Arcanite Reaper, and only 1 mana with the Fiery War Axe, plus he's Taunt. However, other than my weapons, I'm a bit lacking for removal. Just got this Mortal Strike here. And I mean, you can sort of count the Cruel Taskmaster and the Whirlwind, but I think this guy's ability to count as removal is pretty good. And then if he just charges and, hits damage to your opponent, that's also fine. Plus he's a surprise if you're looking for outs to win. So I'm going to take him, although not without some misgivings. Okay. Well, I could use a little bit more mid-game, and the Gurubashi Berserker, although I've railed against this card before, it works nicely with some other cards in my deck. Works nicely with Rampage, of course, and Cruel Taskmaster, and Whirlwind. And as I've said before, you don't want to underestimate the value of, you know, 1 or 2 card interactions. The fact that this interacts positively with like 2 other cards in my deck is pretty strong. So the Cruel Taskmaster is definitely a nice pickup, but let's make sure we have some more mid-game beef with that Gurubashi. Okay, so the Bloodsail Raider can be a very good 2-drop if you get it out with a weapon. It can be quite threatening, but let's take a quick look at our creatures here. We have 1, well, this isn't really a 2-drop. You can't like just play it on turn 2. So we have 1, 2, I would play this on turn 2, 3 turn 2 creatures. For turn 3, we have 1, I would play this and waste the battle cry, 1, 2, 3. So we have actually 3 of each if you're just counting creatures. So this is the one that you can play on turn 2, but it's better if you, but it's also like good in the end game if you got a weapon. This is just always good on turn 3. Let's go ahead and grab the Harvest Golem just for a little bit more solidity in our early game. Okay, Scarlet Crusader, definitely a good card. However, Execute I think is very important for Warriors. It combos nicely with Whirlwind and with Cruel Taskmaster. It also would have comboed nicely with the Slam that I passed over in favor of the Raging Worgen. But even so, even if you're just desperate, it's nice to have this so like, when your opponent plays a Ironbark Protector, you don't just instantly lose the game. Okay, well, the second copy of Rampage, I'm still a little bit scared of playing with that card. It's been too weak for me too many times. So we're going to take an Ooze just so that if I face a warrior who has good weapons, I don't like instantly fall behind and lose. Alright, so here we have to choose between the Panda or the Dark Iron Dwarf. So the Panda is playable onto an empty board. The Dark Iron Dwarf isn't, unless of course the board is totally empty. If your opponent has a creature and you don't have any of your own creatures, the Dark Iron Dwarf isn't playable anymore. The question is there anything for me to Panda back? Well, the Ooze is good to Panda back. This guy, if he's charging, is good to Panda back. The Cruel Taskmaster is good to Panda back. Novice Engineer is good. The Earthen Ring Farseer is good. Dark Iron Dwarf is good. This is good. There's a lot of this guy, it would be, I mean, it's very unlikely, but this is crazy good. Man, there's a lot of good stuff to Panda back. I'm going to take it rather than putting 2 Dark Iron Dwarfs and, you know, doubling my chances of having an unplayable 4-drop in my hand. We've seen on this channel plenty of times where I have a Dark Iron Dwarf, I just can't even play him at all. So we'll take the Panda here. Alright, do I take another Arcanite Reaper? Well, that helps the Southsea deckhand. I didn't end up taking the Dread Corsair or the Bloodsail Raider, so those other cards that synergize with weapons, I just don't have them anymore. But it does synergize, of course, with my legendary Captain Greenskin. So it's either that or this Booty Bay Bodyguard. It's risky. I mean, some more taunt, of course, would be nice. And if you draw double weapons and you're behind, it's really sad. But I'll take it. I'm going to trust my instincts. I feel like that would add some nice juice to my deck. This actually is pretty much exactly what I was hoping for. A nice early taunt creature to protect my interests. And here I can take another Charger, or I can take this Frost Elemental. So let's take a look. We've got, well, if we count 5 drops, Captain Greenskin, I mean, he has really like the stats of a 4-mana creature. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 creatures I would really consider sort of endgame-y. The question is, do I take the creature that's cheaper but can act as quasi-removal, or do I take the 5/5 that, you know, can freeze a character and potentially do some good stuff? So this can kill things that have 4 hit points or less, but this can freeze anything. It's a tough call. I'm going to trust my instincts and take the endgame creature, although I can see arguments for both. Well, here I'm just going to take the Knife Juggler. I think the Abomination is very double-edged, and the Taunt is, of course, great. However, I've got lots of Taunt. I took Taunt pretty aggressively here, so we will take the Knife Juggler. So what do I think about this Warrior deck? I don't even want to say anything. I always guess wrong. It's definitely one of my weaknesses in Hearthstone Arena, is I end up being bad at judging the quality of my own deck. Sometimes I think it's really good and then I don't really do well. Sometimes I think it's bad and I go to 9 wins. And, you know, some of that I'm sure is random. I mean, like the times where I say it's bad, maybe had things been different, I would have not gotten 9 wins and been like, I was right, this deck is bad. You can't really use one outcome in a game with random elements to determine whether you guessed correctly or not about the quality of a particular deck. All right. Oh, what is this name? Ow it hey? Ow it hey? Ow it hey! I don't know when you'd ever say those things in that order. Okay, this is a hand I'll actually keep. So the idea behind keeping this hand is the Harvest Golem regenerates, so I wouldn't be against running into something with the Harvest Golem and then executing it. The advantage of mulliganing the execute would have been to try to fish for a 2-drop to, you know, double my chances of getting a drop to play on turn 2. So I'm basically sacrificing the opportunity, not the guarantee, but just the opportunity to get a 2-drop in exchange for keeping my removal. At the moment, I'll have a bit of a slow start, so if my opponent does do like the turn 1 Mana Worm coin mirror image thing, she'll probably win the game. Or at least she'll start off with a really, really huge advantage. She has a fast start, and she has the Mana Worm. Oh, please don't. Oh my god. I don't like the look of this. Oh, god damn it. Well, that's not as bad as a mirror image, which would have protected the mana worm and also, you know, given it +1 damage. At the moment, the Cruel Taskmaster is not playable. This guy's in stealth, of course. And I do not want to take a damage off the mana worm to also buff its attack to 4. So what we're going to have to do here next turn, I think, is probably actually play this Grizzly and hope it trades. Interesting. So this is an interesting move here because it means that if she plays a spell now, this 2/1 is going to die. So what do I play? Do I play the Grizzly, the Taskmaster, or the Golem? So the Taskmaster, I can use it to kill the Worgen Infiltrator. But this thing is like kind of going to die anyway once the Mage plays a spell. The Golem doesn't quite kill the Mana Worm. My opponent could run the Pyromancer into the Golem, and then the damaged Golem that comes back she can finish off with the Fire Blast. The Bear threatens to kill the Mana Worm, but then the Wild Pyromancer can just kill it straight up. Let's go ahead and do the Golem. If I played the Bear, she also has the option of trading the Worgen Infiltrator into it, and then finishing it off with the Hero ability. And that, she could do that to the Bear, and then she'd be free to play spells off of the Wild Pyromancer, not worry about it killing the Worgen. She gonna do that anyway? Interesting choice. She is. And she's going to use the Golem to, or the Worm to kill that. Well, it's a totally fair play. It is an absolutely fair item. Well, let's see. If I hadn't drawn this, I probably would have just played the Korokon Elite and killed the Mana Worm, accepting the fact that this, at 2 health, would then get pinged off by the Mage. However, I think a better play here, because I drew that Sunfury Protector, is to play the Taskmaster to kill off the Worm, and then play the Sunfury Protector to give this thing Taunt. And this thing taunting holds up nicely against the Pyromancer. Now here, with the Pyromancer's help, something like a Arcane Explosion would kill this off and leave this mostly dead. But I've got the Fen Creeper coming up next turn, which, you know, against a Mage isn't as good against as it is against other classes, simply because Mages can like Fireball or Polymorph it. That is a bit unfortunate, for sure. But I mean, I can answer it, which is nice. So, So I whip out the Arcanite Reaper here. As I've said before, it's nice to get the Arcanite Reaper out when you're like, you know, approximately equal to your opponent. Here what I could do is I could trade this, play the Korokon Elite, and just trade that. But if I'm going to play the Korokon Elite, I might as well just use the Arcanite Reaper to kill this thing. I could execute this thing, but then unfortunately my humble 2/3 isn't enough to deal with that. I could execute and play the Bear and hope to trade the Bear for the Defender, saving my Arcanite Reaper charges for a possibly better creature in the future. However, that plan also involves using my Execute or trading in my creature for this Pyromancer. Well, I'm going to trust my instincts here. Let's actually just clear the board out and leave myself with a weapon in my hand. Against a Mage, it's a bit scary going down in life. However, 22 is still an area where I would say I'm okay on health. And I'm a warrior, so I can always catch up later on if I need to. At the moment, the Fen Creeper is the only thing I have that survives Flame Strikes. I've also got a Frost Elemental that does, a Gurubashi Berserker that does, another Fen Creeper that does, and the Ravenholt Assassin does. So I have a decent number of creatures I could draw that would survive it. Okay, so I can use my weapon to kill this thing off, or I could use the Korokon Elite to kill it off and play the Knife Juggler that I just drew. The Bear doesn't seem very good here at all. The Fen Creeper doesn't seem good at all because the Booty Bay can actually hit the Fen Creeper. The Booty Bay survives. My thing survives with 1 health, but she's a Mage and I'm not, so she could then kill off my Fen Creeper, and this guy would stick around at 1 health. So that doesn't seem very good. Alright, well, we'll save this for... Well, I could use this and save my weapon, or I could use the weapon and save this. It's an interesting option here. I could also just play the Fen Creeper and kill this thing, and have the biggest thing on the board that I can. Oh, man, it's a tough call. I'm honestly not sure what's correct. I could also kill this and then still do something like the Knife Juggler plus Korokon Elite, fling a knife at her face, hit her for 4, get some damage going. I'll have a 2-drop and a 3-drop. I'd be vulnerable to, well, lots of things that mages have. Alright, I'll kill it like this, and I will do the Knife Juggler and the Korokon Elite. So I'm using up one of my surprises, which I know I've said all else being equal, don't waste your surprises. However, I like the idea of putting this onto the board. So if she has mass removal, then this decision will have proven to be a bad one. But if she doesn't have mass removal, if she just has single target stuff, then I'm keeping parity with her. So we're actually equal on cards, you may notice. The reason for that is because I used my weapon pretty aggressively. I mean, I went down to 17 health, which is a bit scary. The thing is, she can't really fling burn at my face because she knows that I'm going to keep on armoring up now. Like, next turn at 7 mana, I'll probably end up doing Fen Creeper and armoring up. The nice thing is that, you know, Knife Juggler plus Execute is a potential combo, because if the Knife Juggler flings a knife into something, it means that Execute is a 1-for-1 damage spell. And that is something that Execute rarely gets to be. Alright, well, let's see if I can get lucky and fling a knife into that wolf. Rampage. Oh, I can't. No, I can't damage anything. That's a shame. Well, let's go ahead and just do the Fen Creeper. So if the knife flings into the wolf, I'll kill the wolf with Execute. If it doesn't, well, then I'll just armor up and swing by. So we're actually pretty close on life, 21 to 19, and I heal and she doesn't. Of course, she burns and I don't. Mages can always have an answer to anything you play, but she's only got 4 cards, so all things considered, the fact that she doesn't have card advantage is nice. Flame Strike will not kill this. She'll have to throw the wolf away or use another spell to finish it off, which is good news for me. What's really nifty is that if the mage... Wow, I never realized this before, but if the mage works down your creatures with hero ability, as you should do as a mage, Rampage can actually then be really amazing because the minion's damaged from the mage pinging it, and then you not only stop it from the minion from dying off, but you also, you know, give it a huge buff. Anyway, that didn't work out at all in my favor. I drew Captain Greenskin, which is not the most impressive drop here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the Grizzly. I'm not gonna waste them. I've still got a Fiery War Axe, an Arcanite Reaper, and a Gorehowl in here, so until I have to play them, I'm not gonna. I'm actually just gonna spend my turn. I'm gonna throw the sheep away because it's on borrowed time anyway, and then use Execute to finish this off. And get 2 armor. Now you might say, well, Boris, wouldn't Execute have been important to have against a potentially bigger threat later? Yes, but I'm not going to hold out for that when I have a good use of Execute right now. I mean, if I didn't use that there, the 3/3 could kill my bear, and she could kill off, you know, my sheep. Well, anyway, that didn't work out very well because she drew a pretty good answer for that bear. It puts a creature on the board, and it kills off my creature. And this guy, even if I quote-unquote waste him, it still sucks because this guy actually deals enough damage to kill him. The panda also dies, but it's not as valuable of a creature to me as Captain Greenskin maybe, so we'll throw the panda out there. I definitely would say I'm losing this game now. That turn where I had the Knife Juggler and the Fen Creeper, and she managed to kill both. Well, she just had the removal for the Fen Creeper, basically. The wolf was going to kill the Knife Juggler, provided the Fen Creeper died. Alright, this is getting seriously ugly now. I don't even really know how I can catch up at this point. Is she actually going to not kill my panda? I guess she's not. Well, that lets me put Rampage on it. Unfortunately, I don't have any way of popping this Divine Shield other than battering my panda into it. But, I mean, that's what I'm going to have to do. There's just no other options for me here. So we'll play out the Raging Worgen. Pop Divine Shield. Definitely not the ideal way of breaking that Divine Shield. You know what? This Worgen could have been a slam. I might have won this game if this Worgen had been a slam instead. I could have slammed off the Divine Shield, drawn a card, killed this thing. I would have had a much bigger chance than I do now. Yep, that was... I don't know if that was a wrong draft choice, but it was a choice that did not work out for me in this particular game.
What to do? What to do?
She's going to copy a 6/2, or 8/2, excuse me, and then she's going to kill it off, of course. Water Elemental. Oh boy, she's now just... She had removal in the early game, and she has all the creatures in the world now. Yeah, this is over. I'm pretty sure. Well, I drew Gorehowl. If anything is going to give me a chance to catch up, it's this baby. The problem is, this is a lot of damage. I can't actually hit all her creatures like this. And her health total is too high for me to burn her out. So, even though I get to do Gorehowl plus Captain Greenskin, look at this. She's gonna... Actually, the Water Elemental is gonna freeze me. I can't attack anymore. This game's actually over. Crap. Well, I was unfortunate. There was one turn. It was one key turn. It was when I had a Fen Creeper and a Knife Juggler. I needed one of them to survive so I could, you know, damage the Fen Creeper and put Rampage on it. And they both got killed. So I can't attack. It doesn't matter. Even if I could attack, it wouldn't make any difference because I would lose anyway. And the Ravenhold Assassin is a bad card. So, that's it. My draft choice there of Raging Worgen rather than Slam, I don't know if you can say that it caused me to lose the game, because it's possible that I would have lost the game anyway, but it robbed me of a chance to stay in the game. There was one turn where I needed her not to have a polymorph, and she had a polymorph. Or, oh, I needed her not to have a polymorph or a fireball. And she had the polymorph for the Fen Creeper, and that was it. That's pretty much it. Oh, that was a bit of a sad way to start the arena, but you know, you're always on death's door when you're playing against mages. That's just how mages are. Let's see who our next opponent is. Seems to be coming up. You can kind of tell when it starts to flicker a little bit and slow down. Anyone but a mage would be making me pretty happy here. It's a priest. So like the second worst thing after mages. Alright, great. Icy the priest. Great. I don't think you can really keep Arcanite Reapers because they're going to be behind on turn 5, but I will send that back and keep everything else. I took Rampage actually over some good stuff. Let's see. Better coin the ooze out. I took Rampage over some good stuff. I forget what I was choosing between. Yeah, I forget. I remember Rampage wasn't in like a bad pack. It was in like a decent pack. Oh god. If that other Alright guys, you have to admit, that happens to me a lot. The Mad Bomber going, like, that was ridiculous odds. Remember, the Mad Bomber can hit anything here. So the Mad Bomber, like, beating insane odds to kill my creature happens to me so much, it's insane. So anyway, I think I just lost the game because of that. I mean, if the Mad Bomber had missed on the ooze, then he could have killed the Light Warden and lived to tell about it. Now, I mean, I'm still behind, but it's really, really ugly. I mean, I still would have been behind given that he had this follow-up, but it's even uglier now because of that ridiculous luck. That happens to me so much, where Mad Bombers kill off my drop. And I know, of course, you know, there's a thing, confirmation bias, where every time the Mad Bomber whiffs, you kind of don't pay attention to it. Every time it kills one of your creatures, you really notice it. But even then, I really feel as though it just happens to be an unnatural amount of the time. So he can heal me to buff this thing. Actually, I mean, if he's not going to use this... Yeah, you know what? That was a mistake a little bit. Because he could have healed me for 2, buffed the attack for 2, and then hit me down. So the attack buff would have canceled out the heal, but he would have also, you know, permanently buffed this creature. So we're playing against a little bit of a newbie here, which is something I'm totally fine with. Let's draw a card. And I could give this creature taunt, or I could just play my own natural taunt. Let's just play the natural taunt here, because it's just as good on this board. I mean, obviously, if my opponent plays like a Shattered Sun Cleric, then I'll just be pissed, but a Shattered Sun Cleric would have sucked regardless. Alright, just gonna trade the owl for that. Seems totally legit. So had he made the correct play last turn, this thing would have actually killed my Novice Engineer, which, you know, may not matter. Actually, it is gonna matter. What am I talking about? It's gonna matter a lot, because I get to put Rampage on it. Yeah, so that one little misplay by my opponent cost him the creature. I'm not going to wait for this to get any better. I'm just going to play it out as a 2-3. Put some extra pressure on the board. Well, this is looking pretty good. My life total is high. We're equal on cards. And I guess that does mean I lost something somewhere because you know, I was the second player. And now I fall behind another card. But actually, I'm about to draw a card, so never mind. It's fine. It's all good. Okay, so Shadow Form won't kill this, Shadow Form won't kill this. Let's use up more of my mana. And swing for 6. Well, this is pretty much the ideal situation to be in when you're holding on to a Gorehowl, because you've got creatures that survive Mind Spike. Ah yes, he went down a card going into Mind Spike form. And then you're not behind, so when you're like equal or ahead, Gorehowl is fantastic. Holy Nova is an interesting move, because it lets him slowly Mind Spike out my creatures. Well, since he didn't play anything, I'm not going to play the Gorehowl. I can either play this to heal my creature up and something else, or the Ravenholt Assassin. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to heal this. I'm going to try to preserve my creatures, because when you play against Shadow Form, your opponent lost a card to go into Shadow Form, and he also paid the ability to be able to heal. Like, he can never heal himself again. So the advantage then is he has this amazing hero ability. So if you can basically make it so that the hero ability is not that big of a deal, then you can come out really far ahead. So he's going to work down my Taunting Bear, which is totally reasonable. However, I get a weapon now. So do I play the Gorehowl or the Arcanite Reaper? Well, if I play the Gorehowl, 2 things happen. Number 1, if he plays an Ooze, it's a much bigger loss. Number 2, it's going to be a long time. I mean, I'm presumably going to be hitting a lot of creatures with it, so it'll be a long time before this Arcanite Reaper comes up. So I'm just going to play the Arcanite Reaper here instead. Armor up. Oh my god, I messed up. I should always armor up after attacking. Oh jeez. I'm gonna say oops, so he knows. I don't know why I care that he knows that I know that I messed up. But basically, it really is important. I actually have a Mortal Strike in this deck. My health should be 2 points lower here. I'd be that much closer to being able to use Mortal Strike for 6 damage than for 4. So that was definitely a non-trivial error that I just made there.
Give me a quest.
Alright, question answer. Let's see if he has a taunt to protect this thing. Ah, he has a Divine Spirit to protect it. So first, interesting. So first, he gets the +1/+1. Then it gets the buff. Oh my god, Captain Greenskin was a timely top deck here. So the question is, do I actually even kill this questing adventure, or do I go for the burn win? I mean, this is 12 damage here, +5 is 17. I mean, I've got the kill here. I'm actually gonna go for it. I think this is the correct decision, because, I mean, he's in serious trouble. He's in a taunt or bust situation. He's not a priest, so he can't heal. I mean, I'm threatening the kill with creatures and with my weapon. And I have a Gorehowl behind it, so even an ooze won't really save him. He has to have taunt or bust. Mind control won't save him. That's always a good situation to be in against a priest when you know that mind control will just make them instantly lose. So I think that was the right decision. When you play warrior, it's kind of like we're trying to remember to look for the win, you know, when you play as any class, but in particular when you play as warrior, you have to remember to look for opportunities to just burn your opponent out with your weapons, because sometimes if you have enough damage to do so, then that's obviously better than just killing creatures. So he did a lot of impressive stuff, and I guess the Arcanite Reaper, well, or this Arcanite Reaper wouldn't have been enough, except this creature actually survived. So I was going to bring out my Gorehowl, but that would be a douchey move. Maybe I'm overly sensitive, but I think it's douchey to show your opponent that, you know, you had extra beyond what you needed to win. It just seems like you're showing off. Anyway, that game was good, but I think actually my opponent had the win there. There was a little move he could have made. He could have healed me before attacking with the Light Warden. That would have buffed the Light Warden, and then the buff would have canceled out the heal. He still could have dealt exactly as much net damage to me, but he didn't. Because of that, the next turn when he attacked into my Novice Engineer with his Light Warden, the Novice Engineer survived as a 1/1. Because of that, I got to play Rampage on my Novice Engineer. Because of that, I killed his Light Warden, and because of that, he had to Mind Spike the Novice Engineer later on instead of Mind Spiking one of my other creatures. I mean, it was a real snowballing effect. That, like, one little nuance, like I said before, it doesn't necessarily cost him the game, but it cost him an opportunity to stay in the game. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this run, or the beginning of this run. If you did, please like and or subscribe. And if you want to see how it ends, well then stay tuned, because the rest of the games are going to be coming up soon. I'll see you then.